It is time for our daily news review. An act of midnight treachery. That's the headline. There it is in the Daily Telegraph, which reports that Brexit Leave campaigner Boris Johnson has pulled out of the race to become the UK's next Prime Minister. His supporters accuse fellow Conservative Party MP Michael Gove of a calculated plot, as they put it, to destroy Johnson.
And of course, Brexit's dominating all the papers, certainly in the UK. This is the front page of the Financial Times. It has on its front page the Governor of the Bank of England, Mark Carney, saying a downturn's on its way. The UK is suffering economic post-traumatic stress.
Shares in Deutsche Bank have hit a 30-year low after US Federal Reserve and the International Monetary Fund said that it poses a significant risk to financial stability. That story in the Wall Street Journal.
The Gulf News reports Iran has fired the heads of 4 public banks after they were criticised for having excessive salaries. It comes after an intervention by the country's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei.
And The Guardian reports that aircraft maker Airbus will fit devices to its jets that would provide a live stream of information from the plane's data recorder. It's been described as a game changer for airline safety.
And I've got some positive news to end, which is nice, isn't it? We're going to end on this National Geographic website. Researchers are saying they have found the first clear evidence that the thinning of the ozone layer above Antarctica is actually starting to heal.
There you go. Joining us, David Braithwaite, Director at Citrus Financial Management.
Good
Hello.
morning, David.
Good morning.
Hi.
We'll start with the Daily Telegraph, but actually, I mean, looking at the papers here, it's all over them, isn't it? This is the turmoil at the top of the Conservative Party. An act of political treachery, according to many of them.
Yeah, poor Boris. He didn't see that coming, nor did we. And this story is just every day is something new is coming out about this Brexit, about the Conservative Party elections, what's going to happen there. Theresa May's coming out, but poor Gove has politically stabbed him in the back, I think.
What are the papers saying about why this has happened? I mean, they were, the point is, they were allies in this long campaign ahead of the referendum vote. They were there on every platform together, brothers in arms, campaigning for this Leave vote.
There's all sorts of conspiracy theories that are banding around in the news at the moment, but I just think that Gove probably didn't have the faith that he could actually lead the country. He saw an opportunity and he stole it, literally at midnight the day before. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run for this as well. Then everybody left Boris's support and is now going to go off and try and support Gove. His position was untenable from that point of view. He couldn't win. It's like a game of chess that's playing out here. It'd be interesting to see what comes out in the news today, because this story is going to run and run and run, I think.
Yes, one for political historians for the decades to come. Interesting that you said at the beginning, poor Boris, because, I mean, it has obviously elicited a little bit of sympathy for him, and yet many people would say that he brought it upon himself, because in fact, you know, the whole referendum was, conspiracy theorists say, was his doing in order to grab the leadership.
It absolutely was, yes, and I say poor Boris because he was going to run for that, and I think everybody expected that that would be probably the lead candidate for it, and all of a sudden twisted, and now we're all looking at something completely different. The news just keeps on giving. And it is good for us journalists and gives us plenty to talk about, but the serious context, of course, is that, you know, this is about Brexit. It's about you know, our relationship with the EU and what it means for our economic future. And I guess that's what we're going to talk about. And also who's going to lead the country, because we need somebody at the front who's going to lead us through this Brexit and deal with it in an appropriate way.
So, turmoil in politics continues with, it would seem, no leadership, and yet the leadership's coming from the Governor of the Bank of England yet again. He was the one that spoke on the morning after the referendum result to say we have got all these elements in place to stabilise markets, stabilise banks and keep the UK economy on track. Once again yesterday he comes out with statements to say we're doing all we can to keep this economy going. Interesting, isn't it, that we are looking to him to keep things going whilst the political mayhem is worked out.
But we need this. We need some sort of confidence, because people out there are worried about their personal finances, about their businesses, and he's standing up there as soon as he could. He made the announcement at the Bank of England to say this is the clear path. We've stress tested how it's going to work, worse than it's actually happened so far. We're going to be all fine. But also he has a responsibility to the people out there in terms of the economy, like the households. He's saying he doesn't want them to delay spending on the high street and so on. So he's now meeting once a week with banks to let them auction and bid for money, to keep the banks, to keep the cash flowing through. So he's trying to provide the most positive messages to try and hopefully not have us talk us into a recession again.
But also in his press conference yesterday, he said, you know, I'm here to do some ruthless truth-telling,
Yeah.
a bit of a point at the politicians and what they were saying before the referendum last week.
But I like that. I like the fact that he's saying, I'm going to stick my neck out, I'm going to tell you the truth, whether you like it or not, but this is what we're doing. And before, when it all happened in the recession before, too many people were too quiet. And I think we've learned a lot from what happened
saying
before.
Things that were not
Exactly,
factual.
yeah. So people couldn't base their decisions on what they were doing because they weren't getting the information. And I think if people, whether it's good news or bad news, if people just get told the truth, then they can make a decision and move on from there. And that is what I think Mark Carney's doing.
And an interesting detail from that news conference, because he was criticised before the referendum for sticking his neck out and making these warnings. Everyone said, you're scaremongering. And he said in the news conference to all the journalists, some of whom had written critical things, does anyone here doubt that this is real? And of course there was complete silence.
Exactly, he's absolutely doing the right thing. And I think we need someone like him to help lead the economy and give us positive news.
Right, talking of positive or negative news, Wall Street Journal talks about Deutsche Bank, the fact the shares were down some 30% yesterday. Two things happened. It failed the US stress tests that are done by the central bank there on its US unit operating in the States, but also the International Monetary Fund warning about its financial stability.
Yeah, absolutely, and they're saying that they are now saying it's the riskiest lender in the world, apparently.
That is extraordinary,
given
it is one of the well, if not the biggest bank in Germany.
But what they've done, it's a bit like, even at our level with a little firm that I run, we have compliance, we have audits to check that we and other advisors out there are kept safe so to make sure that we can advise the public. Why shouldn't a big bank that has a massive say in what goes on in the world economy have the same stress test done to them?
So what is the
only
IMF
right.
worried about?
Well, this is the thing, is in terms of their reserves are absolutely fine, but what they haven't got in place, by the looks of it, is the processes in quite the correct way that they should have. So it's a bit of a warning shot to them, and it's a good one, because what we can then look at is they can then put this new processes in place, make sure that everything is addressing the issues that they've highlighted, and we don't find out about the issues when things are too late. We're finding out about them now. They can put things in place to make sure that things are safer for the future of Deutsche Bank.
In the meantime, those who are running some of the biggest banks in Iran look like they're out of a job.
This is, I mean, it's fascinating, isn't it? Because it's obviously been an issue in Western countries. And this is a state-run bank in a tightly controlled state. And it's the same issue.
Yep,
Soaring executive pay. I mean, it's not even quite clear from the article
So you can't blame capitalism in this case, does it?
It's not quite clear how it's happened, has it?
No,
I mean,
it's
you
not.
think this was all, you know, as I say,
But they're
tightly,
saying that they wanted answers on this because there are struggling Iranians who have yet to see the promised economic benefits of the country's nuclear deal that was sealed. So when you've got these people that are paid the extraordinary amount of salaries that they were, and you've got the people at the bottom ground level, and they're thinking, well, hang on a minute, how is this working? Is it the right thing that they actually did do that? Because it means to say that we're going to be here to support the little person at the bottom here, not to make sure the people at the top are looked after in the way that they're getting paid.
Yes.
Just quickly, because we're running out of time, which is a shame, Airbus to fit devices to live stream black box data. You'd think that's a no-brainer, wouldn't you?
I'm surprised it's not done already. But what a better way, instead of trying to find the black box after it's missing and then they hope the batteries last and they can't always find these things, to stream data live to the people that can help them and spot problems before they're getting there, instead of the two pilots that are there trying to wrestle with something, has got to be a good thing.
Presumably they just couldn't because of, I mean, if you're in the middle of the Indian Ocean or the Pacific Ocean, it was just the ability to stream back that data, but they've clearly found a way to
And the data they could send was
they?
quite limited, but now they've found a way to actually fast stream stuff, so they've probably gone to high-speed broadband.
Now, come on, let's talk about the healing.
I have to say, I know you like this story, but I have to say,
sceptical?
no, I'm not sceptical at all, but I thought we knew this. I thought we knew it was getting better because they'd banned the CFCs, hadn't they? These gases that damage the ozone layer, and I thought it was all on the mend anyway.
But they only banned them in the year 2000. So I think that as a turnaround, if this is healing, and the turnaround, the size of the ozone that it's healed is the size of India. So it's quite a big thing. And these CFCs in the deodorants and sprays that we use only stopped in 2000. It's only 16 years ago. So it's had quite a good impact in a relatively short space of time globally.
Even if we knew it already, James, I just want to wallow in that little bit of good news at the end of our paper review.
It is good news. Although I suppose the bigger picture is that the
don't,
LCT...
don't, James, don't.
We'll end on a high note. It's all going to be
please.
fine.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Good to see you. That's it from us. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Yes, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.